Money is your second language. Where money comes from is different for everyone, but it is still a trade with no escape. Sure, there's communities out there that get by without it. But if you can admit that exception, then you must also admit the rule. Billions of people every single day trade inside a monetary system. If you want proof for how connected that trade really is, about 3/4 of the global population can now access the internet. Nearly 6 billion people, each of us with devices connected to the internet. And somewhere along the line, someone is paying for that connection, which means we can't ever fully opt out of money. Think about it for a moment. Money is always somewhere in the background. We all have a background with money. Talk to anyone and they can tell you a story about money. Money that they've lost, money that they've gained, but we don't really talk about how money has been influenced and shaped the way we view money over our lives. You only need to look at supermarkets and their design and how their aisles are targeted towards children. So from the very beginning, money has shaped us far more than we realize. And this is where we begin our understanding of patterns. The concept of a pattern is seeing a consistent relationship. That's what we do as children. That's how we come to understand the world. And like any relationship, our relationship with money only improves when we engage with it. The same rules apply here as anywhere else. Positive relationships tend to do better. So if you think about money as a relationship, then it only makes sense to make that relationship a positive one. So if we think about how patterns form in other parts of life, if a child grows up around arguments, that environmental influence is likely to carry some of that conflict into their own relationships. Or in short, the pattern tends to repeat. Unless the child, then adult, realizes that you can change this. Money works in much the same way. We have all heard stories of someone on an average wage owning several houses and investments, while someone on a high income is absolutely buried under debt. So money doesn't reward titles, it rewards the stories, habits, and attitudes that surround money. But money is a language we pretend not to speak. Most of us grew up inheriting our money stories. We can say money is linked to our survival, so therefore it's only fair to call these stories around money as survival scripts. The ones that run on autopilot in our minds. Constantly there, but rarely do we ever stop to question their origin or their energetic attachment that we have towards them. Here are some examples of survival scripts, so you know what I'm talking about. You've probably heard them before. Money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are greedy. Wanting money is shallow. I don't want money, I just want to help people. So these are some of the survival scripts that we often hear around us. And we might not think that we live into this, but notice the next time you're talking to someone about money and how quickly they deflect the subject away from them, even in their body language. These scripts come with a side effect. They teach us to distance ourselves from money. So money's everywhere, but we act like wanting it is weird. We might think that money is tied to skill and inheritance, but if you look around, you'll see that that's not always true. How many times in life have you wanted to kick yourself after seeing someone with less skill earning more money than you? So we can see money is not the same everywhere, especially when you're putting in extra effort. You will see that sometimes we even push money away for altruistic reasons, the spiritual kind. But when the gap between what we provide and what we receive, when that becomes too big, that generosity that we have can turn into bitterness. So a side note here is, just so that you know, it will never be a fair trade when it comes to money. It's only a system of exchange, a symbol of status, trust, and survival that people fought, battered, and ruled the world in the trade of this. So now we trade around paper, screens, and numbers, but the principles remain the same. Every person participates in it, in this endless exchange. Yet it's the topic that most people feel uncomfortable in their seat talking about. You can feel it in conversations, in businesses, and in dinner tables. It just makes people squirm. It's like a moralized deflection that allows us to pretend that it doesn't matter. But deflecting money doesn't remove its influence. You only have to look at the state the world is in right now. The cost of everything is rising. Food is rising. Rent is rising. Petrol's rising. So when this relationship with money becomes under pressure, it becomes visible how we treat it in the long run. So we have to understand that money is something that we have absorbed in our family conversations and the environments. The way we've come to understand it is how we've grown up understanding it. So these influences become the patterns and survival scripts that shape how we interact with money later in life. But patterns that can be observed can also be changed. When you understand money as a language, you start to see it as something you can learn, just like any language. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you're interested in learning about the intersection between behavior, systems for success, and how business and personal development shape our lives, you can subscribe to my newsletter where I send out insights like this every week. The link to that will be in the description below. Until our next encounter, look after yourselves.